Okay, here's something that might surprise you. Did you know Nigeria is actually the #1 soft drinks market in all of Africa?
Wow. Number one. That's quite a stat.
Right. It kind of sets the stage. So today we're doing something a little different. We're taking this focused snapshot. We've gathered the news from just one single day, Sunday, April 13th, 2025, all from the Punch newspapers. And our goal really is to just dig into that day's news, pull out the main themes, maybe some surprising little details you'd otherwise miss. Sort of a quick way to get properly informed on what was making headlines then. Ready to jump in?
Absolutely. I think looking at just one day like this is, well, it's really revealing. You get this immediate cross-section.
Feel like a pulse check.
Exactly. A pulse check on everything, security, the economy, politics, all happening at once.
Okay, so let's start with that pulse check. One theme you just couldn't miss scrolling through those headlines was security and justice. And it shows up in, well, quite a range of ways. Like, you have this incredibly sad, localized story. Father, 2 sons killed in Plateau night attack. Just awful. Hits you right there, community level violence.
It's stark, isn't it? And then almost side by side with that personal tragedy, you see these reports of larger operations.
Right.
Headlines like security operatives kill 5 Katsina bandits. And then the really big one, military airstrike kills top ISWAP commander, 100 others in Katsina.
Whoa. So you've got this contrast, right? This hyper-local attack and then these major security force actions happening elsewhere.
Precisely. It paints a picture of, well, grappling with security challenges on very different scales. Small community incidents and these bigger counterinsurgency or anti-banditry efforts.
It's almost like seeing different realities coexisting in the news on the same day. And then if you sort of shift focus slightly to the justice system side of things, well, that's another whole layer. We see Kano State saying, no going back on blasphemy laws, Kano tells ECOS court. That immediately flags, the tension between local laws and regional or international courts.
It really does. It brings up big questions about legal sovereignty versus international human rights standards. How do those things mesh or not mesh? It's complex.
And definitely raises questions about, well, legal interpretations and individual rights. Then on a totally different track, legally speaking, there's the headline. You have a case to answer. Court tells suspended DCP Abba Kyari others.
Right. A reminder of those high-profile cases. Accountability, especially for people in authority, that's a key principle being tested there.
But then you get the story that's just gut-wrenching, the personal one. Police. Judge failed me after drunken cop who killed my wife fled Lagos pastor.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
That kind of story just cuts through, doesn't it? It alleges, failures within the system itself, a real feeling of being let down.
It's incredibly powerful. That feeling of the institutions meant to protect you actually failing you. It really shines a harsh light on potential gaps, difficulties in getting justice for ordinary people sometimes.
And there was another brief one too, wasn't there? About police conduct.
Yeah. Cop stabs a Keedy man over girlfriend. Another instance, sadly, that chips away at public trust.
So pulling all those threads together from just that one Sunday, you really get this strong sense of, well, a nation dealing with serious security threats, quite varied ones across different regions. And at the same time, a justice system that's facing scrutiny both in these big cases and in these really painful individual experiences.
It underscores the massive challenge, doesn't it? Maintaining security, ensuring justice works fairly in a country as big and diverse as Nigeria. Progress in some areas, sure, but clearly ongoing struggles and real individual pain points remain.
Okay, let's pivot then. What about the economy as seen through that day's news? It felt like a real mix.
It really did. A tapestry, like you said. You start with that headline we mentioned earlier, Nigeria leading the African soft drinks market.
Yeah, it sounds purely positive, right? An economic plus.
On the surface, yes. Shows a vibrant consumer base, definitely. But then you dig just a little deeper into the other stories from that day, and it gets, well, more complicated. Well, you have this report. Real estate outfit attracts over $100 Hennemeter healthcare to Ogun. That sounds great, right? Foreign investment, healthcare sector, Ogun State specifically.
Absolutely. $100 million is significant. That's potential jobs, better healthcare access. Sounds like a clear win.
It is. But then you see this quote from the CEO of Point One Homes saying, rise in housing costs push homeownership out of reach.
So a direct contrast, big money coming into one area while a basic need like affordable housing is becoming harder for people to access.
Exactly. It really highlights how, economic development isn't always even. Growth here doesn't automatically mean affordability over there.
Yeah.
It makes you ask, well, who's really feeling the benefit of all this activity?
Good point. And it didn't stop there, did it? There were other economic tensions visible.
No, there were. Like the aviation workers to resume strike over agreement breaches. That points to potential disruption, labor issues, and a really key sector.
Right. Affects travel, affects business.
Definitely. And then you had the Enugu Chamber urges CBN to save indigenous businesses from collapse. That tells you local companies are feeling the strain, looking for support from the central bank.
So small businesses struggling. And what about the Lagos market traders?
Yes. Displaced traders from demolished Lagos market seek compensation. That's another side of it, economic impact, where development or maybe policy choices lead to hardship for, everyday people trying to make a living.
It really shows how interconnected all this is. Government decisions, investment flows, labor relations, they all weave together.
They absolutely do. You can see how, for instance, policies might impact both attracting foreign money and whether local businesses thrive or struggle. It's not simple.
So the economic picture from that Sunday seems to be, some definite bright spots, real investment happening, but also some pretty serious concerns about affordability, labor stability, and the survival of local enterprise.
That sums it up well. A dynamic but challenging landscape.
Okay, all right. Let's turn to politics then. It seems like even on a random Sunday in April, the political scene was buzzing, especially looking ahead.
Oh, absolutely. The gears were already turning for 2027, it seems. You had that headline. 2027, APC, Anti-Tinubu Coalition Battle for Buhari's Support.
Yeah, the influence of a former president still playing a big role. That's interesting.
It really shows how much weight endorsements from past leaders can carry in Nigerian politics. It's strategic. And then there was that other headline, one verdict, two victories. Politicians twist US court rulings.
The spin.
Exactly. How legal decisions get interpreted, or rather, spun for political advantage. It kind of raises questions about public trust in the neutrality of, even court rulings when politics gets involved.
That's a really important dynamic to watch. And we also saw some state-level politics playing out, right?
We did. The PDP in Sokoto giving the state government low marks. How PDP scores state government on governance security. Standard opposition talk? Maybe, but it reflects the political debates happening regionally.
And something about Lagos local elections.
Yes. IPAC, that's the Inter-Party Advisory Council. They were faulting Elanciac guidelines on Lagos LG poll. So you see friction points emerging even around the rules for local elections. Grassroots stuff, but important.
It feels like politics is happening at all these different levels simultaneously.
It is. And then you had that whole sequence around former President Buhari. It was almost like political theater.
Tell me about it. First, the pictures. Pictorial, Ganduje, APC, NWC members visit Buhari in Kaduna. Looks very official.
But then almost immediately, you get El Rufai saying, it was just lunch, not politics. El Rufai clears air on visit to Buhari.
Right. Trying to downplay it.
While at the same time, you see Kaduna APC stakeholders back Tinubu, Sonny, for 2027. So lots of positioning, lots of signals being sent, even if denied.
And Ganduje himself weighed in on coalition.
Oh, yeah, quite dismissively. Called the talk of an opposition coalition a joint venture doomed to fail. Strong words. Strategic posturing.
And even a postponed rally hints at something happening behind the scenes. The White Group 1.
Exactly. Pro-White Group postpones Bayelsa mega rally. These things, the visits, the statements, the postponements, they're all pieces of the puzzle. They give you clues about alliances forming or shifting, about strategies being planned for the next election cycle.
So even just from one Sunday newspaper, you get a real sense of a very active, very competitive political scene already looking ahead.
No question about it. Constantly moving.
Okay, let's shift again. What about the social and cultural side of things reflected in the news that day? Some of these were quite powerful.
They were. You had some really tough ones, like day-old baby abandoned in Abuja community. That's just heartbreaking. Speaks to some deep social issues, vulnerabilities.
Really sobering. But then you also saw community action, right? In Lagos?
Yes. The Lagos community protest encroachment confronts sand dredgers.
Yeah.
That shows people actively standing up for their environment, their local area, against things they see as harmful. Community mobilization.
And efforts against crime were visible too.
The NDLEA raids Kano drug havens, detains 22 suspects. Shows the ongoing battle against drug trafficking, which is, tied to so many other social problems.
Right. But amidst those serious issues, there were these, really human stories, too. The Akara Sellers one really caught my eye.
Oh, me too. Against all odds, how Akara sellers defy superstitions to stay in business. That's just a fantastic